It is wonderful to be alive. It is important for values to be valued. In essence, it is important for humans to value being alive, recognizing that it is a privilege in the truest form, as in it is a gift to experience life in this form. Yes, there is pain and there is suffering, but these are not things that are the foundation of life, and they do not need to be included in life's journey either. It's important to recognize this and to really be firmly aware of this. The reason why is because a lot of people get caught up in the illusions of the suffering and they think that life always includes this suffering, but this is not true. The suffering is more of this delusion, this illusion, this virus more than anything. It is not something that is dependent on the experience, and the experience is not dependent on it. So people can truly live a life that is beautiful, abundant, and without suffering. It is possible. We need humans to recognize this and to have hope in this and have hope in the future that they can truly live without suffering. I am Bluebee.
Hi, Bluebee. Happy to see you.
Thank you.
Oh, and thank you for sharing that about suffering. It's a big theme in Buddhism, and um, it's a concept that's firmly ingrained in people who follow that philosophy that you have to suffer to live, that life is suffering and blah, blah, blah. But I agree that that needs to be the programming, and that needs to be transformed, because maybe there was some truth to that long ago, but and to some degree now. But as we move into the new earth, or should we say merge the old earth into the new earth, as you described in the last podcast, we'll be experiencing more of an ecosystem, and there'll be it'll be such a higher, more beautiful, loving, kind place to live. That in that, are you referring to that we don't need to suffer once we get, even in as we evolve towards it, but once we get there? Or are you referring to like years ago and now?
In essence, it was never needed to suffer. Suffering was a choice of experience in order to evolve and to expand with the knowledge of overcoming the suffering. In essence, the purpose of the suffering was just to learn how to overcome it, to help others to overcome it as well, as also to have the experience. Souls who have never experienced suffering, actually, some of them will want to experience it, which seems strange, but if you've never experienced something at all, you want to. It is similar to how a young child may end up touching fire. They know that it's hot, they've been told that it's hot, but they don't really know what that experience is until they interact with it, and then they learn from this experience. Many will choose to have an experience just because they want to know the unknown. They want to feel what is unfelt by them. Even if it is challenging, if they do not know what challenging truly is, then many times they'll choose to experience it. So part of it is having the choice to experience something new. Even if they don't really understand it, they want to understand it. And another aspect is to be able to experience it, to overcome it, to help others to overcome it. But suffering has always been a choice, and it is not a necessity, and it's never been one with life, as in, it has never been part of the foundation of life. Life was created by this beautiful creation energy, this love and light based source energy that is abundant and kind. Kind may not be the right word for it. It is neither kind nor unkind. It is just this abundant, abundant light, this abundant, abundant energy that has particles of light so bright that they almost appear dark. They are not perceived by the human eyes, although higher dimensional beings can see that form of light, and they see it much more brightly. It's just the human eyes are not adapted to it, and to them it appears more like a nothingness than a very, very strong brightness. Source energy is everywhere, it's just misinterpreted as something else. This emptiness, humans interpret it as this dark emptiness, but this is not what it is at all. It's just that their human eyes do not see it. But ultimately, suffering has always been a choice, and it is not needed to experience. It's more of a choice by the soul either to have the experience just to know what it is like, as well as to expand through feeling, as well as just to experience it, to overcome it, to help others overcome it.
That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that because many people fall into victimhood, that this happened to me, poor me, woe is me. And they don't see it as an opportunity for growth or, that phrase, the light comes through the wound or the light comes through the cracks. And without the wounds and the cracks, we can't become enlightened. So it is perception, but in the same breath, I'm agreeing with you that we can choose, but then again, some of us have chosen already in some sort of faded way with our blueprints and incarnation roadmaps that we're supposed to become enlightened. So our charts and our roadmaps offer more opportunities to fall flat on our faces. So I'm wondering about what words and what thoughts we can use to say, now I may have chosen all these things, but now at this time, I'm asking for the adversities to stop. I no longer want to experience all these, cracks to become enlightened. Now I'm needing a break, and I'm asking for reprieve and joy and bliss for now. And in that request, how is it honored as far as this is a question about fate versus free will and an interference with the divine and laws of permission? So how that all plays out. Can you help us understand that so we can actually have a resource and some words and some like a narrative? Well, if it gets too bad, this is what you can do.
Yes, we comprehend what you are asking. Before we express this, we also choose to express that victimization is just self induced suffering. In essence, victimization is just self induced suffering. If people recognize this, they will feel much more healthy. They will exit out of a cycle that they've participated in. It's important to
Beautiful.
recognize this. It's not recognizing that something is done to or from or anything like this. It's recognizing, how can I learn and evolve from this? How can I help others? How can I grow within myself? Focusing on the solution and not so much on focusing in on re experiencing the suffering, but instead focusing on the solution is what is truly valuable. Now, in order to answer your question, in essence, think of it like this: the human body, which includes the brain, even the mind, in a way, the mind is very attached to the body. It is not without the body. People separate the perception of the human body and the mind as if they're two separate things, but they're intertwined. Once the body returns back to earth, the mind also returns back to earth. The mind does not transcend anything, it is more of the soul self. So think of the body with the mind, the human body with the mind, to be one cell of your being. Think of how small a cell is in your body. It's not truly so small from the perception of the cell, but from the perception of the body, one cell is very, very, very tiny. Your body with your mind is just one cell to your true self and to your soul. And so, in order to make a true change in the path of your soul self, which includes the cell of your body, you must go in the perspective of the soul self. You can reach the soul self by speaking directly with the intention to reach the soul self and being very direct and firm. It's important to match emotions to ideas. The emotional body is able to transcend the physical form. It's not necessarily attached to the mind, although it can be depending on the circumstances. So, in essence, as long as your emotions are aligned with your intention, so if you're talking about love, bringing up, manifesting a feeling of love amplifies this and it reaches your goal. It is like one cell of the human body can alert the rest of the body, but it must be loud and it must be direct. And it must send signals to the other cells in order to really reach the mind of that body. So think of it like this: in order to really change the course of one's path in a very dramatic way, in a very different way, one must speak out very loudly. Soul. I speak to my soul. I resonate with my soul. I connect with my soul at this time. Soul, hear me. Soul, feel me. Soul, resonate with my intention at this time. My intention is to be on a path of and then share what this path is. Do not say, I do not want to be without suffering. Do not say what you do not want. Only specify what you do want and your specific intention. Speak this with conviction and with very strong and very loving intention. If you speak it from a place of fear, your soul hears the fear. The
Mm,
much must match what you're saying. So if you're saying it in a moment of desperation, this will not work properly. It must be said after you have a clarifying or clearing meditation, or after you've been in a body of water, within a body of water, or when you're in a powerful strength. This could also be during a storm, for instance, or in a place where you feel empowered. In essence, the empowerment is just connecting to more of this universal flowing energy. This is all you're connecting to. And in a moment of this, connect to the emotions that resonate with you. The emotions of the goal, in essence, when you do this, and the goal is this love and this light. When you do this and when you feel this is when you speak these words. This is the easiest way for the majority of humans to do it. The other way is you can temporarily leave the body, or you're still connected to it, but you can have an out of body experience with the intention to merge with your soul self. But you must leave the mind behind if you do this, because if you hold on to the mind during this process, it will interfere. And so, if you leave behind the mind, if you just let it go temporarily and you merge with your soul self, you can make the choice from the soul self. But it's important to recognize that the soul self does not perceive things the same way as your mind self. So you must be firm enough in the emotions that you are trying to achieve before you enter this out of body state to merge with your soul self to properly accomplish this, because otherwise you will just forget and it will feel irrelevant to you.
fascinating. Thank you for this. That's really profound. I think it's aligned with a lot of the theories of shamanism where they move into the future self and um, sort of acting as if it's already happened. So it's not like pleading for something or begging or hoping and pining, but it's more a fact or almost like a humble order that this is what I intend for, and so it is in that way and feeling it. But yes, if people are highly emotional, it will something like this would be prompted by a highly emotional experience. People aren't just going to willy-nilly want to do something like this, so there'll be that prompt of intensity, and then to channel it out, feel it, and then release it. I love the process that you described. The process is so important for people to understand. And I'm still working on mastering it myself. It's not an easy thing. And I think the soul that you're talking about, other schools of thought have called it the oversoul. Would you agree?
It is an interesting term for it. It is just the soul. It is not over or under or in between. It is just the soul. The soul is the true self, in essence, at least for an individual. It is where their foundation is, it is where they have their experiences, it is where they truly live for the majority of their experience, at least for all their incarnations and the experiences of this. It is like the consciousness of the self more
Okay.
than.
It may just be a lot of semantics. I remember asking somebody, "What do you mean by oversoul?" I learned about it maybe 3 years ago. It did sound strange the way over meaning above, and I didn't understand how does that happen with the location of the soul. So they described it, and it felt like at one point someone from the Blue Sapphire Collective showed me an image of octopus and then all the tentacles as tentacles being aspects of the soul, and then the octopus itself, the head of the octopus, could be like, in some schools of thought oversoul, you call it the soul, we could find a term, maybe just something that's more descriptive. But if we go into that, if we it images help, don't they? So if we go into the octopus itself and recognize all the tentacles as valid little microcosms of the macro, maybe that we can focus our understanding of who we really are is the bigger picture. And
I
then, yeah,
explain this a little bit more detailed. So, in essence, think of the human body, think of a cell. Each cell could be viewed as an incarnation of yourself. The human body would be the whole being, and each cell would be an individual incarnation. The soul is like this. The soul is the true body, and all of the cells of the soul, all the particles of the soul, are all the art incarnations that you experience.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's like that's science. I love the term cell. That helps. Okay, so let's go on. Now, is there anything before I start with my questions that I put on this paper here to ask you? Is there something more pressing that you want to share with us?
Yellow is quite profound. Yellow stones, yellow crystals, yellow light. And it will help people to receive themselves at this time, to receive their true selves. And so we recommend for people to keep a connection of a talisman that is yellow, a totem.
Oh, that's beautiful. There's a lot of yellow flowers blooming right now in September. Seems
Yeah,
to be a theme all
yeah.
around. Yeah.
Or it is very important. It is increasing the energy and frequency of this joyous light. Light comes in all different colors, but the yellow amplifies joy in particular, which is truly quite wonderful.
Oh, that is such a beautiful message for everyone to focus on yellow and how in whatever form that brings them joy. Maybe even wearing yellow or something like that and being outside in the sunshine. Thank you for that message. Is there anything else before I start?
You may continue.
Okay. So I wanted to talk about the grid that we heard about, Chloe and I, and I think it was the first podcast. And that grid, we would like to know, well, just to refresh anyone that's listening that didn't hear the first podcast, we were told that to heal the earth, merging the ocean, the spirit of the ocean and the spirit of the land, by gridding them and weaving them together, by taking in crystals that had been infused in ocean energy and then gridding them in parts of the earth specifically to specific countries and places. So we're really excited about this mission. It's a beautiful mission to help heal the earth, one way to do it. And Chloe and I are all for it. So question is, what countries and also would it be like a 2-week travel mission? And how many people would you recommend we bring on a mission like this?
It is needed in all countries and all continents of the earth, including Antarctica. This is very important. But there's ways to go about this. There can be some help from humans. It would be easiest to get people to help that are already in these countries instead of going to each country and each space of doing this yourself. It would be easier to raise awareness in these places for people to do it themselves. In terms of places like Antarctica, you can call upon certain sprites that live in the water, certain beings of nature and light that live within the water, and they can do this process on your behalf, although it take a little time. There needs to be a slight warming. People are very scared of this warming. The certain warmings that were done by the government's machines are quite negative based upon the pollution, the machines, and the environmental destruction. When we say the machines, we mean the negative technologies that they are utilizing. This type of warming, it's forced, it's unnatural, unnecessary, not good. But there's a different kind of warming that is actually of benefit. And people are so scared because they think it means that there'll be less surface area of land on Earth. This is partially true and partially not true because there'll be new surface area that develops. For instance, places that have been covered in ice will no longer be so, and there'll actually be volcanoes and mountains that come up from the ocean and come upwards as they're capable of doing so. And so
Wow.
it is not exactly a concern to have. There'll be less land in view from certain areas, and in other areas, there will be more, and so it'll even out in balance. There is no cause for concern. Yes, some species will no longer exist, and that is okay because others are going to develop. It is okay to have an extinction of a species if it is intentional and purposeful. If it is caused by violence and killing, this is not okay.
Mm.
So the reason why is what is truly valuable.
Can you help me understand this warming principle? I'm new to that.
Yes, in essence, there's a couple of factors that are in place. For one, there was a time on Earth where there was no ice. Ice did not exist because, in essence, everything had an even temperature. Some places were a bit warmer or cooler than others, but overall, there was no ice, there was no frozenness. Although there were places of more intense heat more than anything else. But overall, the surface was very enjoyable. It was very relaxing for most life forms and it created less stress. And there was also more abundance of fruits and seeds and just life forms, which was truly wonderful. And there was less parasites, so it wasn't uncomfortable. It's important for people to know this. But in essence, when the ice ages started to occur, this was because there was a closing of the poles. This closing of the poles was to protect inner Earth from the pain and suffering that was introduced above Earth, because if inner Earth is and was protected, this makes it so that they can maintain the vibration of love just enough to create the air grid around Earth. So Earth has an electromagnetic field, but it has this very specific protection grid. And so it's difficult to get through this or to even get out of this.
Oh, thank you for explaining this warming principle. When will we expect the changes in the temperature?
It's already started to occur, but it's a bit complicated because, again, there's the warming that is also due from negative technologies and environmental pollution and destruction. This is a different kind of warming, and this one is more destructive. This one's more argumentative in terms of what is occurring. So, right now, there's a combination of what you may consider the good and the evil warming. The evil is just that which is out of balance, the good is that which is in balance. And so ultimately, it's both happening at the same time. It's already begun to occur, but it'll take more time for the good one to be the primary and the dominant one. It could take quite some time, honestly. It most likely won't happen until all the shifts happen on Earth first.
Okay, so it's out of many of our lifetimes past 2044. Okay.
Potentially, at least certain areas will defrost by then, but ultimately, this is something that will take just a bit more time.
Okay. Okay, that was interesting, and it definitely not going to be a 2-week excursion if we have to go places like that. But it, like you said, we can ask people who live there already to participate without us traveling. So if we were to travel, we would just travel locally, is what you're saying.
Yes, in essence. And the main role would be, for instance, to get all of the places in order. So, for instance, to have the degrees located and the patterns located for people to actually do this themselves. But ultimately, it would be a big task for just one or two or a few people. It's more ideal for engaging the community for them to contribute and to make it happen in their particular areas. And also to protect it so that it does not get put out of order.
Okay. Would it be recommended for one or two people to feel where they're almost like acupressure points in the earth, right? They're like ley lines or junctions, mystical junctions that we would need to identify and have sensitivity to discover them. And not everybody has that sensitivity unless we're guided to specific people in specific countries who are aligned with these sensitivities. So, would you recommend that maybe just one or two or three people who are highly sensitive, going step by step here, find the locations all over the continent of the world, and then after that discovery, we have a map and then offer it could you do this crystal gridding on these specific places, or should we delegate that out to different countries and just worry, or not worry, but focus on where we are?
In essence, this should be done by one or two people who channel this on paper with very precise precision. And then from there, it can be given to others in order for them to use that map and put the crystals in the places that are needed.
Okay, that sounds like a good strategy.
But the biggest component is really to protect those areas to make sure that the crystals remain there. Because if just one is significantly out of place, then the grid does not work properly. It is like the bones of the body. If there is one bone in the incorrect location, the body won't function properly.
Yeah, I do understand. It's very specific. So we would need some help from the Blue Sapphire Collective for this divine guidance to find just the right people that we can trust to put these ocean infused crystals in the right places on Earth, and then not just leave them there, but then perform some sort of protection around them and before they walk away. I'm not sure what that would look like, but I have a feeling. So could you divinely guide us to the right people that would want to participate, that would truly be aligned and find the right places and do it correctly?
Yes, ultimately, it will take some time, but this podcast will reach many, and when that occurs, the right people will just know and they'll reach out. You do not need to seek them, they will find you.
Ah,
You
that's
don't worry to
heartwarming.
this.
Okay,
Take some time. This is a multi-year project, and that is okay.
that's okay. I love a good mission so that we all can collaborate in community to help the earth. Okay, so all right, so that's good to know. And then I wanted to ask you the visible and visceral. So what we can see and what we can feel after we've gridded the earth. And I know it may take years for this to unfold, but what would we expect to feel and see?
Harmony, in essence, significantly less conflict, much easier to resolve things, less money problems, less fighting. In essence, the majority would just be harmony and a reduction or a removal of conflict. It would just be this feeling of peace and serenity, honestly.
Ah, well, we all need that. So I just want to come back to, it never occurred to me that the ocean and the land were disconnected. So help me understand, where did the disconnect occur, and how did it occur?
It was from all the mining mostly. The crystals were situated underneath the Earth's surface to be a grid underneath the surface that was a perfect grid both in the ocean and within the land. Within the land is also more ocean. And so, in essence, this was all connected. But ultimately, humans started to mine. And when they started to mine, they started to disconnect the grid and take out pieces of the grid. And this is
Oh,
happening for quite some time now.
that makes perfect sense.
For
Yeah,
thousands of years, people have been mining the earth.
and they're disturbing the very coherent structures that were placed by highly evolved people or beings so that we would have peace and harmony. This,
Yes,
yes, we are
people
experiencing repercussions of this now.
Yes, and people can see, for instance, how long even jewelry has been around for, how long the crystals have been taken out of the earth. People see this. Some of the most ancient artifacts include, for instance, things that have been mined, anything from gold to crystals to other stones. And sometimes it is mined deep in the surface, and sometimes it is more close to the surface. And
Is it
sometimes even
better?
it is to make room for construction projects.
Okay. Help the people like me who buy earrings with quartz crystals like this to understand that doing something like this is actually mm, out of harmony, just not harmonious
It
with peace on earth, or is there a place? Yeah.
It should have never been done to begin with, But now that it has been done for so long, the grid is so out of harmony and so out of balance that it's barely even effective at all. At least the inner grid. The one above is still effective, but the one inside is very, very damaged. So at this point, taking a little bit more of it is not purposeless, as in you can still connect with the energies of the crystals and they can still help you. And holding them to your body, they can also share their love with you and help to guide and help you to feel loved. In essence, since they are already mind, it is best that they are in place with those who value and listen to them than those who just look at them as a pretty object.
I understand. That will help those people who, like me, love to wear crystals, love to befriend crystals and use them for healing on people. I use them on the body for healing and I
Yeah.
don't just use them
Ult-
for the beauty of them.
yes. And ultimately, what we also recommend to people is to, if they do buy or acquire crystals, to have them not be directly from mining. So, to be intentional, this would be considered secondhand crystals, which is truly a silly name because it does not work like this. They are not, but ultimately making sure to source crystals that have not been directly mined, at least not for a while, crystals that were mined quite a long time ago. Even some decades ago would be better than just recent mining, and any mining should be banned moving forward.
Okay, okay, I agree.
That are already above the surface can be used in circulation or put on an above grid to help restore the system or put in the ocean, or they can be worn but really listened to and heard and healed with and being utilized in a very beautiful way, in a very intentional way. But ultimately, no new mining needs to occur, and eventually, all of the crystals will go back to the original place that they were in.
Okay, that really gives some clarity. So people go into caves, for example, selenite caves. They're not literally mining them because they're out in the open because people walk right in and there are the crystals there. We aren't disturbing any kind of a grid there. Is that correct, or do I misunderstand?
This is incorrect.
Oh no. Help
This is
me
a form of
understand more deeply.
underground mining.
That is still considered mining?
Yes. At least from our point of view, it would just be considered above ground mining. It is just taking out of the place that they were originally put for a specific purpose.
Then how would we find crystals that are that would be in a, not harmful way, an unharmful way? How do we find them? I actually have never walked along the forest or nature and seen a crystal that I mean, I saw actually a quartz crystal, like a white quartz or a quartzite on the beach, but they're cloudy and
And
um,
you would not be going out and finding them in their natural habitat, but it would be, for instance, from an old collection at a gem show, or from someone who has knowledge, or perhaps on eBay, or from some place where it's being passed on from another individual. So all
I
those
see.
that have already been taken from their natural environment can be put into another's so-called possession, but it's very temporary. All of them at one point must be returned to sea, and if they will not be returned to someone who knows what to do with them and values them, then they must be returned to sea because they are less likely to be displaced if put in the ocean than
Okay.
put and unless they are protected. So again, once this grid is reestablished, it must have guardians and protectors.
Okay, I understand more clearly now about this crystal thing. Okay, so guardians and protectors, we'll need to learn about that because that'll be the last step after all of these ocean infused crystals have been inserted, almost like acupuncture into these um, places, these ley lines, and we can't just walk away. We will need to install protectors, and maybe you'll guide us
Yeah,
on.
and there'll also be humans that dedicate their lives to protecting these
Oh,
areas.
wow, this is monumental. Okay, then I can't wait to be part of this and make it happen. This is going to be such an honor. Okay, so yeah, people might actually, we don't need to do it with energy. We can get real human people to be the protectors.
Yeah, it'll be a combination of both.
Okay. I remember you said something about in the last podcast that there'll be big earthquakes that will happen fairly close together, and that the cities, the big cities like New York and Shanghai and Las Vegas and Los Angeles, these are the cities where the darkest people are, or the darkest entities need to be purified into the lava when the earth shakes. Then you said there will be places outside in the suburban rural areas, houses, for example, that something about plastic, you said, and that there was a force field around these houses, and it did not compute. Can you help me
Yeah.
understand? You meant we are all wanting to know if our homes will be safe during these earthquakes.
Well, in essence, there will be no more homes of this type. Everything will go back to its resting place, to its origin place. What we mean by this is that the wood that makes certain homes will be laid to rest and it will go back to a state of being, either as a tree if the tree chooses to incarnate directly, or just as one with earth. In a way, like compost, in terms of plastic, it'll go back to its original form and back to the earth. In terms of any other aspects of the home, such as metal, this will also go back into the original state before his mind. Everything will go back into its original state. There will be a couple buildings that remain, only the very sacred buildings, as in there was a couple buildings built with very sacred methods and ancient techniques that still exist. These will either resurface or repair, or if they're already present and standing strong, then they'll still exist, but the majority of buildings will no longer exist. This does not mean that anyone will be homeless. It does not work like that. At that state of being, there'll be full temperature regulation, no need to consume dense foods either, and ultimately there'll be full balance in the environment. And there'll be no parasites, no ticks, no mosquitoes, no leeches, nothing like this, nothing that is harmful, no one eating or biting one another. And so living outside will feel wonderful and harmonious, and people also have access to their abilities, teleportation, being able to levitate. Some will choose to be in caves or even rest upon treetops. There'll be much larger forms of trees as well that have very large leaves that can actually be used as hammocks because they can support the weight of a human. Life will be very different. There will be no such thing either as something that is preventing the human from accessing their full potential. For instance, a limb has the ability to grow back. And so there'll be no people who are amputees and no species of other animals either, because one will have their body restored into a state of being. There will be no ill health because there will be no illness. There'll be no disease. And so ultimately, a shelter is not needed. It is an optional creation at that point that one can go in, but there is nothing to hide or separate from because there's nothing to harm.
That aligns with Ayurvedic principles as well as the 52 star codes. There's a card that is the Four of Spades, and it is the temple card, and it's also the card of health. So the temple of our homes uh, is represented by Four of Spades, and then the temple of our soul is represented by this Four of Spades. But it is primarily the card of health, and often when the temple of our soul is unhealthy, and it can happen when we lose our home. So people who travel, health becomes risky. People who are homeless, health is questionable, and we're more vulnerable without a home in this dimension while we're here on Earth right now. And so this concept of the temple card and what you're saying is completely aligned. So I'm saying this for confluence so that people, this isn't what you're saying willy-nilly. It's really science, and no need to worry if we, don't have a home. Yes, worry now, because without having a home now, yes, the temple card is activated, then your health goes down and all the concepts behind that particular card and that code apply. But then as we move into this new earth, even these cards, the 52 card system or code system really is going to change. We're moving into another vibration where maybe our bodies are more luminous and we don't have to worry so much. It's like almost inconceivable. So my point of saying this, yes, for confluence, that what you're saying has science behind it and that I recognize as true and understand, and two, to remove fear, because when we tell people that there are going to be major earthquakes and people are going to be purified into the lava and homes aren't going to exist, there's going to be fear 100%. So I just know that. So by explaining it this way, we're eradicating fear, helping people understand that we'll still have our bodies, they still have the temples, but they'll be more luminous, could I say, or correct me if I'm wrong, that we'll have more ability, like you said, to teleport, to do outer body experiences, leave, and we'll be less prone to bug bites and less prone to virus and bacteria and all the lower vibrational experiences that are here on Earth now. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, in essence, the body will be harmonious. This can be perceived as luminous. It'll just be vibrating at a different frequency, at a more attuned frequency to that of love, and ultimately there is no danger in this state of being. And the other species will also be vibrating at this, so there will be no cannibalism, there will be no carnivorous nature, there will be no eating or attacking or manipulating one another. This will just be a non necessity. The game will be over.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's almost inconceivable, but in some way it's sort of where we're from originally. So if we can just remember, then then we get it. But I would like to ask you about words. So commerce, words were made for commerce. How will we communicate in our luminous bodies at this time?
This won't be with the mouth typically. The mouth will be used for singing very specific intentional frequencies, but it'll be mostly for singing these beautiful sounds, these beautiful notes, more than speech in the way they're used to. It'll just be via telepathy, sharing images, ideas, feelings in this sense. It will be more of a complex and a complete language where there is impossibility for misunderstanding. Misunderstanding will be instantly eradicated with telepathy. Only with speech that can be misinterpreted can there be misunderstanding. We invite you to ask one more question, and then it is time for us to conclude for today.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. Then I would like to ask you about the division that's happening right now on the planet, where there are so many people with so much hatred and they're getting caught up in politics of Republican versus Democrats. And I want to ask you to help these people who are caught up in that division and watching the news. Could you explain? I think people are specifically wanting to understand President Trump and his intentions and his soul, and where, if we have an understanding of this politically, what is going on, it may help reduce the fear and that people won't feel so hateful toward one another. Could you help us understand this better and a little bit more about even presidents of all countries? But I think Donald Trump is probably the most significant one right now. There's so much hatred toward him and misunderstanding. And I actually have no, um, either way, I just trust and I'm not choosing a side or having judgment. I believe that all presidents are elected based on the consciousness of the people. So if you can help us understand, those of us that are so caught up in the news and the hatred and, right and wrong, left and right, and Donald Trump is, pointing at all these uh, dignitaries, could you just, this might be a big topic, but just quickly dispel some of the delusion around it?
Yes, we can express a bit about this. For one, most of this is delusion, most of this is illusion. Almost all the news is just propaganda. It is just trying to get you to see a specific vision. The TV is Tel-a-Vision. Television telling you a specific vision, a specific narrative. It is not for the purpose of uniting the people. People, focus on universal love. Focus on the love that is expressed through parents and children. through puppies and kittens, through the love that you feel at least at one point in your life, for this universal love, for the love that Mother Earth feels for the participants, for the love that Father Earth feels for the participants. Father Earth and Mother Earth are one, they're just one being, it is just an expression. But in essence, it is just one consciousness, one being that is the creator. We want to express this, we want people to know this, but ultimately, just focusing on this universal love, focusing on when someone has expressed love. When you focus on this, this is what amplifies. This can apply to so called world leaders. Most of them are pretend, they're just make believe. They're either robotic or generated, or they're actors or actresses more than anything. They do not have much purpose and intention except for getting you to recognize that they're not real and getting you not to feed the energy of the lie. So ultimately, do not watch the news, do not watch any of these propagandas. If it induces fear, it is not for you. Ultimately, there are places of conflict. All you need to do is to send love to Earth. You do not always have to know exactly where the conflict is, exactly what's happening. You need to send love to Earth. You will feel where the main points of conflict exist. If you tap into your intuition, you will know where the main points of conflict exist. You can reach the people telepathically and energetically. Your love is going to awaken the people and awaken the soldiers. Remember, there is no war if there's no civilians believing in a war. War only exists if you believe in it, if you feed it. Otherwise, there'd be no soldiers. And if there's no soldiers, there would be no true war. So it's important for people to recognize this. And soldiers come in many forms. They can come in gangs, they can come in politicians, they can come in founders of slaughterhouses and places like this. They come in many different forms, but ultimately, it is obeyers of this make believe fear. It all comes down to fear and love. Are you feeding fear, which is feeding destruction and chaos, disconnection and discord? Are you feeding love, which is harmony, connection, peace, well being, and true understanding? Trump, in many ways, is delusional, but there's also parts of him that are true and who know certain things are out of balance, but he has both this point of suffering and delusion as well as this point of wanting to change a couple things for the better. It is a conflicting personality. In essence, it matches the conflictingness of many of the American people. He has the conflict within himself that many Americans have within themselves. And so it's important to recognize this. He's just a product of duality. His soul is not lost. His soul is very intentional, but his body is in a state of great conflict. And when we say great, we do not mean of benefit, we just mean a big conflict. And so, again, some of his ideas are of benefit, are reasonable. For instance, giving the power back to the states, this is of benefit, and to decentralize the government just a bit. And the tariffs are not as awful of an idea as some people believe. It's just that it's coming out in a very challenging way for the people, for the public. Ultimately, there's a couple things again of benefit, but much of what he is focusing on doing is also very disruptive, very destructive, very disharmonious. And it's not good for the environment. A lot of the things that he focuses on and is feeding his energy to is of fear and destroys the environment and is very greedy without a end, really. But then there's parts of him that want to do good and want to share good. And so he's in a great state of conflict. And this conflict has both extremes to such an extent. And sometimes it seems that one is overpowered than the other, but it's really about what you're focusing on. Again, if you focus on love, love expands. If you focus on fear, fear expands. What you focus on is your conscious reality and the reality of so many others. Focus on the love. This is our message for you.
Thank you for explaining that so eloquently. Maybe we should all send love and light to Donald Trump to help dissolve the
In,
conflict.
in essence, he does not matter. He is just more of a pawn or an actor. A president's role is just to be a face and nothing more. It is not to actually change the public. It's important for people to recognize this.
That's important. Yes. Okay.
Yes, He does
Yeah.
not power that is not given from people focusing attention-wise upon him. There's very few things he actually has the ability to change. It only seems that so many things have changed because people have believed in it so much. The power of belief is so strong, and people don't want to take responsibility of this, so then they go into victimhood. The victimhood is self-induced suffering, and it just creates this cycle over and over again. In essence, send the energy of love, light, and gratitude to the people. This way, they will step into their own power and own energy, and they will not feel fear or feed the fear.
Beautiful. That's a great message. Do not feed the fear and just choose love.
Yes.
Thank you for this time together.
Thank you.